Hey guys, what's up? Welcome back to Stormworks. In this one, we are back working on our oil rig. And I know I mentioned in the last episode we were going to do a little bit of work on the superstructure, but I lied. I was a little bit wrong. So actually what we're going to be doing is the tower that kind of hangs off the back, and we're going to route all of our exhaust fluids through that. So that way all of the warm exhaust gases do not go by any of the other flammable liquids. Completely unnecessary in Stormworks, but I think it'll make the oil rig look a lot better. So it's something that we're going to work on. So I am real quick just going to be deleting these exhaust ports for our furnaces, and then we are going to route it out by that tower. And I think it'll end up looking a lot better and make this thing start looking a lot more like a completed oil rig. So we're going to have this, I don't really know what you call it, so we'll just kind of have this giant gantry sticking out from the rear past the filters. And I think that that's probably going to be one of the best places for it. Also, we're running a little low on space in the workbench when it comes to side, so can't really put it on the sides. So it's got to go on the front and the back, and the front is where the helipad is, so that is not a good option. But enough of that. We're going to get right into the build for this one. If you guys like this build series, don't forget to hit that like and subscribe button. We've got plenty more to do on this build. This is one of the bigger, more complicated things I've built in a while, probably since the carrier, honestly. But yeah, we're just going to keep working away at this. The videos are going to keep coming. I would say right now we're probably about halfway, maybe 2/3 of the way done with this build. So definitely stick around, stay tuned. We got plenty more to do, but we're going to get right into the build with this one, and I will talk to you guys in a few minutes. All right, well, we got that mostly built out. I think it looks pretty good. There's a few other things we got to do to it, obviously, but I just kind of wanted to get a reference for the angle we're going for. So I spawned it in the world, and that looks pretty good. Now, I will say what we're going to have to do is, I did mention we're going to put the exhaust gas from the generator over here. So this is going to have to get wider by a couple blocks. We're going to have to add one more pivot. But for the most part, that's kind of what it looks like. Just imagine this 2 blocks wider and one more pipe inside of it. So you can see we've got the room down here. The routing of the exhaust is going to be a little tricky when we go to do it with the generator, but this is definitely helping the look of the oil rig in my mind. The only other thing I really want to add to it is I kind of want to add a support that holds it up in place, so it's not just depending on these pivots. So we're going to also work on trying to add a connector to it and make sure that even if you lose power, it won't really fall and whatnot. But I just moved this out to maybe try to move it up a little bit higher in the sky, and I'm not super happy with it. I think it looked a little bit better lower, but enough of that. We're going to try to get these connectors in, and I know it's a lot of in and out of the workbench, but the connectors, you kind of got to just play with them to figure out what fits correctly and works nicely. So that's kind of what I'm doing here, and you guys can see I'm going to build the support right off of this truss structure that goes around the slurry tanks, and that looks about right now. I think I'll probably change that to a hinge connector just because it's a little bit bigger and stronger. But for the most part, that's kind of what we're going for, is, you know, just this giant gantry that kind of sticks out the side and releases a bunch of exhaust gases. And then, you know, it also is mostly there for looks, but realistically speaking, you probably want this. In real life, I believe they burn fumes off of these. So when you see an oil rig and it's got a giant fireball going out of it, I think that that's excess fumes that they're burning off for safety reasons. And they actually do that in quite a lot of applications in the real world if you aren't familiar with it. It's kind of just a factor of safety thing. Now, you can't burn the fumes in this game, so we're just kind of imitating the look, and that's really kind of what this is all about. Now, I did add another one of those kind of red blinking lights just so air traffic doesn't run into it. But kind of enough talking about this thing. The rest of the episode, we're going to be a little bit all over the place, if I'm being honest. So we've got some other things to do. I want to start playing around with anchors. Now, I mess around with the anchors quite a bit, but the other thing that we're going to do is we're going to try to get the refinery testing and make sure that all works correctly. So, you know, just kind of we did that in the last episode, so I mean, I know we didn't really officially test it, so stick around, stay tuned for that. It should work pretty fine. Going off of what I did, I was talking about a couple episodes ago, is, you know, I played around with it a bunch, and generally speaking, I found keeping the pressure a lot higher is going to help you out. So if you are building your own refinery, kind of just follow along with that. Now, what I want to do is I want to add some other furnaces. So I know we already have 2 diesel furnaces, but I want to add some electric furnaces just to give you the option to not burn fuel in order to refine it, just in case, you know, you could be out of diesel or something. So you could technically run the refinery off of battery power only, and that just gives you the option. But we also got to get a heater in for the fresh water, so absolutely unnecessary, but I always try to do realistic plumbing on my ships. So the inside of the ship is going to have fresh water, showers, sinks, whatnot, but they all need to be heated as well. So we're going to put a heating loop in there that gets them running to about 180 degrees Fahrenheit, I believe. I could be wrong, but that's kind of what we're working on. So right now I'm just playing around with some anchors. I put them in the side, but later on I'm going to actually move them to directly under the ship, and we're going to add 4 of them. So that'll kind of help you stay in position while you're drilling. So one of the major downfalls with this creation, I'll be honest about, is the wind. And the wind really pushes this thing all over the place. So it's something that I've kind of been fighting as I've been building this. And what I, you know, trying to do to combat that is just add a bunch of anchors. So, you know, you can do positioning hold systems and whatnot. I probably won't get too much into that. Just, you don't need to be super precise. And if you're anchored to the floor, you're not going to move too much. But I am trying to figure out the wind thing, because once you get over 80% wind, the cables start to break and this thing starts to blow all over the place. So I'm trying to fix that. I know we have a lot of wing blocks on the bottom here. Now, I tested out removing them and it didn't really have much effect on the wind. So I'm just going to leave them. I think they look nice, and also it lightens the pontoons up quite a bit, which helps this thing float a lot more. So that's, if you were wondering why there's so many wing blocks down there, that's kind of the reason. Is it's partially aesthetic, but also it helps lower the overall weight. Now, in the current build state of this oil rig, it's quite heavy. We're still not done with it, and I was messing around with it yesterday actually, and obviously I'm a lot further ahead than you guys see in the videos, but right now it's currently 1,400,000 mass in this game, so it's definitely not a light creation. And I also calculated that we have about 150,000 liters of fluid storage on board, so the weight can change quite a bit, and that's something that we're also going to combat later. I'm going to add a bunch of stabilization systems into the pontoon to try to fix that. So we're going to go with propellers and with sliding weights. Now the sliding weights are kind of helpful, but since they're pretty thin pontoons, you can't change the center of mass left and right too much. So we will add those, but it's not going to have a massive effect. It's more going to help balance it out a little bit. That's why we have to do both the propeller system and the weights. I played around with ballast systems and whatnot, but I didn't like the idea of kind of waiting for slow pumps to fill up, and it was kind of just giving me some trouble, especially with I basically had to flood like half the pontoons for the mass to actually take an effect. So I'd rather just go with the sliding weights. If you haven't seen that, there's plenty of people that do that in Stormworks. Basically, it's just a weight that slides left and right and or forward and back to adjust the center of mass of the ship. So we'll be doing that. It'll go both ways. It'll go front, back, and left and right. And you guys can kind of check out that later on. We're not going to get into that into this episode, but that's just kind of something that I wanted to tell you guys about how I'm combating the lack of balance in this oil rig at times. But we're just going to spawn this in the world real quick, and I want to test out the refinery and whatnot. So that's kind of what we're doing right now. Well, actually, I should say I wanted to test out the exhaust. So you guys can see that I got the generator exhaust pumped over there. So I did that off camera just because it was kind of a little messy. It took me some time to figure it out. And you guys just saw me construct that giant gantry for the fluid or for the exhaust anyways. So I decided we'd just get rid of this. Now this is a basic system of how the anchors are going to work. I'm going to obviously make this a little bit more complex later on. So each one of these later on is going to have a controller where it's going to, yeah, you guys can see right there, the wind is absolutely taking this thing away. But later on, the magulls are going to drop down, and as soon as they're connected, it'll tighten the ropes, and they will all be on their own separate connectors too. So if you're parked over uneven ground, it'll kind of adjust for that as well. So I go ahead and I do that off camera too. Now again, I kind of said I'm going to move these anchors to underneath the ship where they're kind of a little bit more tucked away, and I didn't want them on the insides here or the outsides just because they kind of get or they're at risk of being hit by like a boat or something like that. So that's kind of why I moved them in. Plus it makes it look a little bit cleaner in my mind. But I'm just going to play around. I'm going to try to put some more magulls on here, see if it fixes the wind issue. Now, I'll give you guys a spoiler. It doesn't, so that's kind of why I have to play with a bunch of other stuff. But enough of the anchors for now. We're going to move on over to doing some electric furnaces. And like I said, we're going to be able to switch between the diesel and or the electric for the oil refinery. And right here, we're just going to build a little structure to put 3 different furnaces on. They're all going to be electric, and 2 of them are going to be for the refinery, and 1 is going to be for our water tank. So you guys can see we have this structure, I guess, kind of hanging over the side. And I wanted to get these furnaces kind of up and out of the way because they put out a lot of heat. Now, I know the diesel furnaces are just sitting on the ground right next to each other. And so it's a little counterintuitive just because those are still in the way, but this at least gets these a little bit out of the way. And going back to the conversation we've had in a lot of these videos is I'm trying to make this oil rig built a lot more vertically because that will help it make or look a lot more realistic. So that's kind of the goal with this. Is I just wanted to have a structure that was kind of higher up to make the back end here look a lot more built up. And even though there is no separate floor or anything, I think it helps the oil rig kind of fill the oil rig's silhouette out a lot. And that's kind of something that I've been focused on a lot. The other nice thing is I think it just looks good. So we're going to cover this up in a bunch of fins and fans and stuff. You'll see it ends up actually looking pretty cool. It does look like a giant HVAC unit sitting up on its pedestal. So that's kind of what we're going for. Now, you can't easily access these, I will be honest, but given that you can access pretty much everything else on the oil rig, I didn't think it was super necessary. And, again, this is just kind of a backup in case you don't want to use the diesel furnaces. It does not matter that our water is getting heated. That is just me overcomplicating things. But, it's something fun that I try to do with a lot of my builds just because I like doing the plumbing. And you can do some pretty realistic stuff in this game as far as the water systems go. Now, I will say one of my big complaints is you can't really do like heating like a normal or like a house or whatnot, where you kind of have cooling loops pushing out water into radiators and that kind of thing. And that is one of my gripes, but I will say, obviously I do this stuff a lot, and I do a lot of, air conditioning and heating and that kind of stuff. So generally speaking, you're just going to be better off using a heater. They're so much more efficient that, unless you are really, really going crazy on the trying to be realistic and that kind of thing, it's just not really worth, doing it that way. So I played around with putting a motor back here, and I actually removed them. There's no need for those to really spin. I thought it would look cool, but again, it's completely unnecessary, as well as basically this entire structure is unnecessary. So there's no need for us to overcomplicate it more than we already have. But that is pretty much all of the building we're going to do in today's episode. So if you guys stayed to the end, thank you so much. I really appreciate it. The people who stay to the end really kind of help out the channel. So I appreciate it, and I can't thank you guys enough. But enough of that. That is kind of what we did today. Is, I said we were going to jump all over the place. So in the next episodes, we'll start putting this thing together a little bit more. But I think it's coming along nicely, and I think it's starting to look really, really good. But yeah, guys, that's pretty much all I got for today's episode. So if you, again, stayed to the end, thank you. Don't forget to hit that like and subscribe button if you do like this series. We've got plenty of more Stormworks coming. I've got a couple cool builds in the background that I think you guys will like once we get this and the AWACS done. But that's it for me today. So I hope you all have a wonderful rest of your day.